Welcome, welcome people who've joined me for this session. I suspect people will come and go or, if they like. I think you should be able to turn on your microphone for this session. If you want to speak up, please do. And I have some slides and I'd like to share some things, but also I'm open to the chat. If I'm or if people want to turn on their microphones. I think you may even be able to turn on your cameras as well for this session. In this session, we're going to talk about the journal, Health Literacy Research Practice, and I'm going to get to it in just a moment. Let's see if some people will join us. So I don't want to penalize the people who are here on time, but maybe just we give another minute before we get it going. While we're waiting just to begin, if people have specific things that they want to hear about, that they specifically want me to address, it'd be great if you could start to put things into the chat. I have things I'm hoping to talk about that I plan to talk about, but I also would love to hear, what topics are on people's minds. And so feel free to just post things into the chat, or to unmute and say, introduce yourself, please. And we can figure out how to do that together. Always a little more complicated in a virtual context, but I think with your patience, we'll be able to do that together today. Okay. I'm Michael Pasciuolo. I'm the editor-in-chief of Health Literacy Research and Practice, and I'm happy to talk with you about the journal. It's very nice to have a journal dedicated to the field and to see it grow and to think about the future of the field and the journal, how the journal can help serve the field and the like. We do have a specific some people have started to put on their cameras. That's great. I just noticed. Thank you for doing that. It's annoying. Virtual meetings are annoying in so many ways. So it's great to have people. If you might turn on your camera and say hi, that'd be great. Anyway, so the journal includes. Thank you, Joe. And the journal includes also a significant area of interest for transforming research to practice. So the practice editor for the journal is Cynthia Bauer, and I do want to take some specific time today to talk about what we mean by practice-oriented articles. And then we also have a statistician in the group, Howard Cabral, who's a long-term colleague of mine. Thank you, Chelsea, for turning on your camera too. I even got a smile and a nod. That's great. Barry, you have a backdrop from Alaska, which always makes us jealous. Not everybody has their name written there. So if you might change your name, then we can call you by something other than meeting host or something, or whatever your name is. So if people do speak up, that'd be great. But if you just would introduce yourself and tell us where you're dialing in from, that's awesome. Okay. With that, let me go on. It happens that we have a very nice, robust editorial board. I think, Barry, you might be the only editorial board member on the call just now. Has it been overly taxing, Barry?
No, it has not.
Barry actually is you're particularly qualified to talk about this because you have experience as an editor as well, and been prolific on your own right.
Right, I'm an editor for one of the family medicine journals.
Yeah, exactly. And so at times when I meet a conundrum, Barry's one of the people to reach out to. It's been fantastic. But you can see by the list of the editorial board that we have people from different parts of the world and from different disciplines. And we would welcome additional members from other parts of the world as well. And it's actually, I think, quite a nice group, and represents a pretty broad array of health literacy talent. Really, some of the most prolific health literacy authors are involved. So that's fantastic. If you're interested in getting involved, another way to a kind of more obvious way to be involved, besides submitting articles, is to be a reviewer. And we are always looking for talent in this as well. Reviewing is an ongoing challenge for everybody. And if you're interested, you can email me, or you could also email Shayna Bayard, who is the managing editor. Her email is right here, sbayard@slackinc.com. And she can hook you up with information about being a reviewer. Which I do my best to try to link people to review articles that are in their areas of interest. So hopefully that would work out. And it's this last couple of years with COVID, this last year and a half in particular with COVID, has been kind of an explosion of writing in the science journals. And so there's been a lot of pressure on many people to be reviewers. But we're looking for more, new people all the time who could do this in a productive way for the journal. Let me go on. So I've managed to open up enough windows that I blocked all the words on my screen, and there are too many words here anyway. So the journal is intended to be a forum for the dissemination of high quality behavioral and clinical research that will bridge research with best practice. And we do aim to attract a full range of investigators and practitioners engaged in health literacy research and practice, including a broad array of public health and health services, epidemiology, translational, educational, interventional research, all kinds of things, in implementation activities as well. In that respect, we are an interdisciplinary and international publication dedicated to promoting excellence in the field. And in doing so, to promote health equity and reduce health disparities. We publish original research, quantitative and qualitative work, reviews, brief reports, best practices, and there's another kind of a type of article that we publish that hasn't gotten enough attention yet that I want to tell you about, called Mission and Motivation. All the articles are open access and they're published online only. The journal launched in 2017 and has done fairly well. We are all the full text of all the articles are available in PubMed Central. The searchable in PubMed. We're fully indexed in Medline, Index Medicus and Medline, and in PubMed, and we're awaiting impact factor. It used to be that you applied for an impact factor, but now that's changed, and you have to wait for an impact factor, and they need at least 3 years of data to generate that metric. But to be indexed at this point is actually quite a nice scenario. To date, in the last effectively 3 years, because of the 3 years of working at this, we've had over 420 manuscripts submitted, of which 170 were accepted, and as you can see, the numbers here. This is fairly decent for a young journal, and I think we're going to continue to grow. These are the different manuscript types and the parameters for them. most of the submissions by a lot have been original research manuscripts, but we do have other types of submissions, and clearly there are other opportunities for different types of submissions. And I'm open to like talking with people about ideas if they have them, or questions if they have them about them. But I do want to get into a few of these different types of things. And I don't see anything in particular in chat, but if people have questions or concern or topics that they want me to specifically address, I really would be interested to hearing what's on your mind for us to talk about. So maybe the type of article that has had the least submissions that we want to actually grow more is a type of manuscript called for best practice. Now, I'm totally open to continuing to have original manuscripts coming in. That's really the bread and butter for a research journal. But we do hope to be a journal that does more assertively bridge from research to practice, and to be relevant for clinical and public health purposes, and not just be about esoterica. There's always going to be room for esoterica, but we do want to have to be relevant to practitioners and to be relevant to how systems improve. So with that in mind, I wanted to spend a little time talking about this type of submission, because we're not really getting enough of them. Barry, you're bringing someone else on? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
No, I was just talking to my wife about buying something.
Oh,
So-
no. Well, I thought you were going to invite someone else on to the, that's okay.
No.
Oh, well, okay.
We just
And
got back from Alaska a little bit ago, and it was like everything from the car towing to buying food, and a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, Barry and his wife send out pictures of all the animals they see in Alaska each year, and it's just astonishing to see the photographs, Barry. And it's just painful to imagine you now in like a hot climate, though.
It's right. It was 90 degrees the day we got back. Ah.
Yeah. There was a question about articles that we have around COVID. I don't have the actual count. I can go and check. There have been a cluster of COVID articles, and it's absolutely a topic that needs more attention. And we're absolutely open to more. I think there's only been like 4 though. But and one of them was a perspective. So I think the question is not exactly how many, but like, is this something we'd like to grow? And I would say absolutely, or at least that's how I would like to turn the question. So best practices, it's really a way for authors or for a team to explain stuff that they did and lessons that they learned. And it should be written in a way to help other people understand if this is something that they should try to get their organization or group to take on. It's really oriented towards a little more the actual implementation of a project, as opposed to the research methods of the project. And so with this in mind, here I have a description of what we think of for a best practice article over the next couple of slides. It's not really a forum for a deep dive on the background and a discussion of the abstract principles, but more with respect to the actual program and what it takes to implement it, or policy or educational initiative. But whatever the activity it is, to describe it in such a way that someone else could say, oh, I would like to try to make that happen in my organization or setting. Of course, you have to describe what you did and how many people you did it with and stuff like that. But ultimately, the reader should be able to say, okay, what will be the facilitators and barriers if I try to do this? what had to be kind of adapted or adjusted, from the concept of the model to actually what actually got implemented, what actually happened, and why did they happen, and ultimately, is this something that the author will aim to sustain in their organization, or not? And if you recommend other people to do it that way or not. Now, just to be clear, it's not that the best practice always has to result in a massive success. There may be important things for people to learn from negative studies as well. And people frequently don't write up their negative studies, but then other people have to kind of do the same failure modes again and again. So it's important for people to learn about attempts at implementing the various types of health literacy activities in organizations, and figuring out how to move forward to improve their organizations. One framework that, if you're having trouble kind of getting organized about it, is that people can refer to is the RE-AIM framework. And if you're thinking about some initiative in an institution that's like health literacy oriented, you have to think about, who does it reach, and was it effective? How was it adopted? And was it implemented, and how could it be maintained? That's the RE-AIM framework. There are other frameworks as well, but if you're answering these questions, then you're doing the work. You're helping someone who reads this article decide, is this something that I can be doing or that I should be aiming to do with my organization? There's a different format for these submissions in terms of the abstract and the paper, and the body of the paper as well. And it's really oriented more towards how the implementation was done, and so that our reader could know, is this something that I should be trying to do in my institution? We have separate reviewers for these submissions, reviewers who understand the challenges of implementation, and they're going to be looking at the paper with that lens. So we do our best to have a group of reviewers who will focus on the challenges of a best practice effort, as opposed to kind of an original research paper, which really does have a separate tone and set of criteria with it. Before I go on, are there any questions about this concept of a best practice paper that people want to ask or wonder about? Well, the crickets are making loud noises, but
I have a quick question. This is Doug Coyle.
oh, please.
Is there a place in the journal for academics to write up an article about how they incorporate health literacy as a project into a curriculum, into a course?
Sure. So educational initiatives of various kinds. I guess I could have asked you who the learner was that you're thinking of.
These would be undergraduate students in health education, health promotion, and public health, and would be incorporated in, for example, the health communications course, how to design appropriate health literacy materials for people that need that sort of thing. And there are various courses where health literacy, it cuts across so many different courses in the curriculum of undergraduate students, for sure, that you could almost incorporate a project of health literacy, or part of that project, program planning and evaluation, on and on and on.
Sure. Excellent. So it really could be done in different ways. I mean, for some people, and for some, some ways of approaching the scenario you're describing, it's an original, piece of research. It's just that the subject of the research is the adult learner, as opposed to, a health system patients or clinicians. That'd be fine. It could also be approached as a best practice scenario, where if you take the approach that here are some best practices in pedagogy in this arena, and so I've undertaken this, and I've aimed to implement that, and these are the things I learned and had to adapt because to make it effective. So that would be fine too. There are other formats for the journal as well. There are perspective pieces as well, and sometimes that's a fitting approach to topics where a person may have a lot of experience but didn't take it on as a research study, but took it on more as a perspective. So that, and even to say original research, broadly speaking, we have a different format for quantitative versus qualitative research, and something like this could certainly take on a qualitative methods as well, depending on people's interests and approach.
I'm just thinking that in order, because CHES and also CEF requirements to prepare students for practice once they graduate, health literacy is such an important part, and the ability to take the basics of health literacy and have them apply that to a particular project that might be applicable in their professional life seems like might be worth writing up in some form.
Yes, so it kind of depends on, like you used a phrase, the basics of health literacy. So I think when a person says that, sometimes what they're saying is there is a basic practice, there is a best practice in this area. Like I want people to know this set of things or a set of skills, and there is if you will, a core curriculum or a best practice for a certain part of this. And so it might really be fitting in that respect to a best practice approach for writing that up. But the mindset of the reader, I think, in that format is this something that I'm going to do, that I'm going to now learn how to do better by reading this piece? I want to put out, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to put out a topic with a caution, which is the next topic, which is reviews. So it turns out that health literacy, the field in health, the literature in health literacy has had a lot of review papers. It's actually already had a lot of review papers. And it's kind of there's even a bit of, like, it's a bit of a churn. So I think it's fair to say that my thinking about reviews includes the following ideas. And if someone wants to submit a review, that they should think hard about this, because most review submissions get rejected because they do have to bring something new. There has to be something new that comes from the fact that these papers are being brought together. A lot of reviews have already been done, and it's just not interesting unless some new insight can be gleaned by bringing the data together. One failure mode in this area is that if you have an important question and you do a review of the literature and you find out that there's very few papers there, and the main conclusion is there's not much here. A lot of new research has to be done. So that's not an inspiring paper to read, because you're not bringing new data together. You're not having a new lesson from bringing data together. What you're doing is you're saying there's nothing here. So that actually might be more fitting as a perspective, and as an opportunity to write up the fact that there are those big holes in the research area, and to start to chart out your perspective about what needs to be done in the future of that. Sometimes people make a big effort and gussy up a topic as a review paper when it's a lot of extra work for them, and not really much added value. You know, if you end up with fewer than 10 articles that you're bringing together, people could just read the articles, you know, and people who cared about that topic would just know those articles. So you have to just kind of think, is this actually fit the review? And I feel bad sometimes people do a ton of work and it's just, you know, very close to a prior review paper, you know, same topic, but a couple of years later, and they added a few more papers, and it just doesn't add much. So it's just this slide is kind of like a bit of a word of warning. If you want to do a review paper, you're not sure, send me an email. Or if you're really gung-ho for it, just make sure that it actually brings something new. And if it doesn't, well, think again, because there's a lot of work, and these tend to be long articles that before making that big effort, you want to make sure that it's something that's interesting for people to read. If basically you're saying there's an open field here, write a perspective instead. It's actually gives you more flexibility and lets you have more of a voice, and then focuses your word count on your discussion of the issue, as opposed to, you know, your search methods and all these things, you know, especially if you didn't come up with anything. I hope that's not too annoying for people to hear, but it's sad for me to send back a rejection on people like doing a lot of work where they just didn't add anything with the work that they did. Okay. Even if they had like a great methods, you know. Okay, here's a submission type that I think is underutilized, and is something that I really like. I think it'd be great if we had great submissions for this. And this submission type is called mission and motivation. This is actually a way for people to say, why do they care about this field? What motivates them to do this work? And this is a submission that features your stories, people's experiences and perspectives about their motivation. What has influenced them to work in health literacy, in research or education, advocacy or policy, in any respect. These are shorter pieces, 750 words at the top, but this is really not like, you know, there's no method section. The method is your life, you know, and gives people an opportunity to explain why are they dedicated to the field of health literacy. Let me pause and see if anyone has any questions about this or horrible concerns. This is a very different type of submission. I'm sorry it took me a long time, Gary, to notice you did change your name. That's yeah. So perspectives, perspectives really are opinion-based essays, just like almost every journal will have. They don't have to be solicited. That's an editorial. Perspective pieces, people often just submit without talking to me, which is totally fine. But if you're interested in emailing about a topic and say, hey, is this an interesting opinion essay or a topic that you might be interested in, please send me a note. I'm happy to engage with people about these things. I want to make sure people understand, we frequently have published perspectives of things that I completely disagree with. Like I am not playing the role of editor for this manuscript, for this journal, to control people's thoughts. People are allowed to have different opinions. I'm helping to facilitate that. I don't aim to be kind of like, you know, the Pope of health literacy in any respect. People are allowed to have different opinions and to disagree. That's okay. And sometimes this comes through, you know, in the form of perspectives. So there's not really a litmus test based on, like, you know, some ideology per se, but, you know, it has to make sense as a piece of writing. But it's not going to be judged, just, because there's disagreements that it wouldn't be accepted. People are allowed to have disagreements. That's fine. I don't know if people have any questions about this. So with that, this is my email address. There's a lot of ways to find out more about the journal and about possible submissions. There are some people on this call that have I think that have not submitted before to the journal. It'd be great to get your submissions and to learn about your perspectives, understand what motivates you to be in health literacy, and to get your original manuscripts as well. Of course, I didn't speak about that so much, but research, qualitative and quantitative research, is going to be the bread and butter for a journal like this. But we are looking for innovative content from around the world. We've been publishing from all around the world already, but want to continue to keep that up. So let me see if anyone has any particular questions. If you don't want to bring them up in this forum, that's absolutely fine. Send me an email and we can correspond. If you want to bounce some ideas off of me or others, that's legit. Or if people have something they want to bring up now, that's fine too.
Let me just add that this journal has really turned into the health literacy journal. And I occasionally run across good papers sometimes about health literacy topics that are in journals. Like, why is it in that other journal and not in this one? And so, to the people who are attending, if you have something you think might be interesting, contact Michael. If he says, yeah, that might be a go, send it in and we'll consider it.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, we do hope that this journal will help promote the field and get it to going forward. Of course, there are other journals that publish health literacy content. That's fantastic. There is also, it's going to take a lot of different wheels turning to help move the system forward. Like I have no problem with other journals publishing health literacy content. In fact, it's a success for the field when this happens. I try to pay attention when a journal that has never before published about health literacy that they've now have an article in health literacy, because it shows like the encroachment or a bigger reach, for the field. It's great to see. But there are hopefully this will be kind of a home base for many people. Great. Well, today was the first day of a 2-day HARC. It's bizarre that it's virtual, but that's the COVID life. This is the 13th year of HARC that we've had the opportunity to do. It only happens because, the field still is happening, but it really will require growth. I'm happy that there's a bunch of new people at HARC this year, people who have not attended before. But in order for this to actually succeed, we're going to have to grow. We're going to have to bring in a lot more people. I think it's fair to say that many of us have observed that health systems can be extremely complicated for people who don't have a ton of money, power, education, social capital, and health literacy. And the field, in this field, we're working together to try to improve that, to try to improve health and public health, despite the massive power inequities that people experience. And so there's no way that this can be kind of a niche side project. it affects so many people. And one of the things that I really like about the field is that we're, by and large, we're people who are saying, we know that we have a tremendous amount of educational privilege, but we want to do something about it so that healthcare can work and that public health can work, even for people who don't have that kind of educational privilege, that kind of power, that kind of social capital. So hopefully, hopefully today at HARC didn't scare you away from any of this, and that you'll continue to think about things that you might submit to the journal. It'd be great to see your stuff. If it doesn't get in, please don't stop, working in this area, and don't stop, trying. You can send me notes and ask me, like, tell me how to make my stuff better, or it will get in. Like, we'll see how it goes. It's an adventure, and I'm hoping to see many of you tomorrow at HARC on day 2. There's some really great stuff. I hope that's compelling for people, even in a virtual format, to get on. You may not have had to travel. You didn't get the benefits of traveling to DC. Usually we did HARC in DC, near, or the Bethesda near NIH, and we would get the NIH project officers to come, but so maybe you didn't get the, right around now, I would probably have been opening up the poster session, and I usually would walk around with free drink tickets for people. That's usually what I do right around 5 o'clock at the end of the first day of HARC. So we don't get that, but maybe you didn't have to leave your house or put shoes on today. So, you get the benefits of, like, not having to travel. There are benefits for that. If that's what you got, if that's what you wanted to do in a virtual meeting. So with that, we're going to stop this session early, and please check out the poster session, the poster area on the website. There is a link for people to vote for their favorite posters. So thank you, Kelly. There is a link there to vote for your favorite posters. There's an award for the favorite posters, for the best posters of the meeting tomorrow, that at the end of the meeting. Thanks, Jen, for the clap. And it's Miss Gigi Holder gave me a clap too. That's cool. I'm not sure if that's what you mean by your name, but that's what I said out loud. It'd be great if people would vote on their on the posters. It's one of the worst things about a virtual meeting is not being able to walk around the poster session and to stand and ask people questions. Some of the posters actually, people took the opportunity to make a little video of themselves talking about their poster. So check it out, and I think some of those are quite compelling. Even though it's virtual, you get to see the person and get a sense of their perspective. All right. Be well, everybody. Thank you.